Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Mr. and Lady viewing at home, thank you all for tuning into Kinetic Aesthetic. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Germ, and since the day is Wednesday, that means that we're going to be reviewing something. But before we get into that and what we're going to be reviewing, I just want to say, make sure you like, follow, subscribe. It helps the channel grow. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you give it a hype and make sure that you subscribe to the channel as well. That also helps us grow. My goal is to try to get this thing to over 100 subscribers. We're starting small, but we're going to get there. And then on top of that, if you are listening to this on Spotify, make sure you do the same thing. Make sure you leave a comment if you hear something while I'm reviewing that you want to talk about or that you have an opinion on. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. I love to read what you guys are thinking about, and I love to connect with you. But with all of that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. The album that we are going to be talking about today is going to be the latest output from Isaiah Rashad. After 5 years of me just burning through and listening to The House is Burning, I didn't intend for that pun right there. We finally got something new. He came at us with It's Been Awful. This is an album that, if you can, based off the title, this man has clearly been going through some stuff, and he has been. You know, Isaiah Rashad, the last album he did, The House is Burning, that was 5 years after the Suns tirade. And so it's sort of a theme for this guy to just take a long time. It's sort of an old school style of doing things. You know, you take some time off. In his case, a lot of times it's not necessarily intended to be that long. He has a lot of, he's had shit happen to him. I'm not even going to beat around the bush anymore. So Isaiah Rashad's career goes, he started off with Sylvia Demo. That was what really blew him up, got him attention, and got him signed to TDE. That is a classic mixtape. If you haven't heard it yet, I definitely recommend it. And then he came at us with the Suns Tirade, which was his follow-up. It was, I believe that was his first studio album. It was the first one officially released to TDE. And it's one that was fire. I didn't listen to it initially upon when it first came out. I wasn't really heavy to him. I was into TDE artists, but I wasn't really trying to check for the newer people. It took me a while to really even get into SZA. And so when I first went back and I heard that, after I heard The House is Burning, I was so shocked at just how much heat this nigga had been supplying. But it turns out that he had gotten a opiate addiction, I believe it was what he was addicted to, and that caused him to miss, just literally not be ready, always be going through some shit, getting his album done, and it just derailed his career for a little bit. Then he came back with The House is Burning. That was fucking fire and an amazing project. And it was as he was doing festivals, you know, touring on it and everything. I believe it was 2022 when some leaked videos came out. He basically got outed. He has came out and described himself as like sexually fluid, and by that I guess it just means that, you know, he can see himself with a woman or a man. It's not really a big deal to him. Again, at the end of the day, it's not really our business. He touches on it in the album, which unfortunately he had to just because of the way everything happened for him. But once that all happened, all I remember was that he literally was at a festival and he literally had to shout out to the crowd like, y'all saved my fucking life. Because it was rough. It's rough for anybody to have to go through that, especially in the hip hop sphere where I was actually like reading up on what some other people's thoughts on this album, just trying to really figure out what the consensus was. And there was a line in a review that really just killed me. There's a group in the 90s called Brand Nubian, and they literally had a line that said that they will beat the shit out of a F word. And it just sort of, that is exactly how it feels, I would assume, to sort of be homosexual, to be a homosexual man trying to exist in the hip hop world, because this shit is not friendly. This is a lot of toxic masculinity. There's a lot of niggas that are just doing the most, overdoing their part, just trying to prove themselves. And it cannot be tough to be a man that is openly, you know, fluid in this sphere. So I already know that was a lot for him to go to, a lot for him to have to deal with, for him to have to struggle and contend with. So honestly, when I first heard the album was coming out, I was just glad that he had not given up on music and just given up, period. But that brings me to my first point when it comes to this album. I appreciate that he did not give up on his career, that he has continued to strive for more, and that he even made this album and everything. But I will say, for an album that took 5 years to create, for it to have that type of time put into it, it didn't seem like this was something that had taken that long. Sonically, and just from the way that it sounds, I know that's redundant me saying it like that, but it really does feel like this is not too dissimilar from any of his other work. This is not some brand new Zay, a whole new spin on things. He has the lead single on the album was called Same Shit, and I really hate to say it, but this has felt to me very similar and same shit to his other work. And again, that's not to say that it's a bad thing. I think I was listening to this with a friend the other day, and I think the main consensus that we both had on it was that it was just nice. This is decent. This is what you would expect from Zay, but this ain't something that's really groundbreaking. It's not pushing any barriers. This isn't really him exploring new sounds. It's a deeply personal album, as you should expect. You know, he's got the standout song on there, Act Normal. That's some personal shit. You know, he's got the song on there. What's the other one? Nothing to Hide. He's got Nothing to Hide. There's just a lot of songs on here that are just detailing him and the personal struggles and trauma that he's dealt with. So I don't want to make it seem as though I am not too high on the album and that it doesn't have a lot of depth and content to it. But just musically, if you are a fan of Isaiah Rashad who's heard his shit before, you're not going to be experiencing any new sounds. You're not going to be experiencing anything new sonically from him. So I can't really say that I was just too impressed by that. It sort of just felt run-of-the-mill. This is an Isaiah Rashad album. This isn't like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, where this is Kendrick doing something we hadn't really seen, and he is, you know, exploring different sides of himself. This is Mr. Morale, except the music just doesn't sound any different. I think that's the best way I can describe it. This is if somebody went and just made an album that personal, but they just stuck to all the same producers, they stuck to all the same production traits and qualities that they're used to and that they're familiar with. And I think that's my biggest gripe with the album, is that I really like it. Just, it's decent, but it's not something that I think needed to be an hour and 5 minutes. It's not something that I think needed to have 16 songs. It's just, at a certain point, it feels like this album just is a little overcooked and it's a little overhyped. And it's not necessarily his own fault. This is just what happens when you take 5 years off. When you're an artist that has that type of reputation as Isaiah does, to where you've made fans get to a point where we expect you to be coming with something real fresh, with a fresh coat of paint. And this feels like he was just painting over the old one. And I think that's the biggest gripe that I have with the album. That's why, as much as I hate to say it, the best I can give this is right now is a 7. I cannot really say that despite the fact that I really like the lyrical content and I like what he's talking about and how he's getting into it and how he's really getting into his own personal shit, this just sonically is not going to do it for me. There's not a lot of songs that I feel like I'm going to be coming back to, wanting to hear again. Honestly, on my first listen through, I only saved 2 songs. And I'm somebody who, on The House is Burning, that album only had about 10 to 12 songs. I saved, like, just off the initial first listen, 5 or 6. So this is definitely a step down for me. Whereas The House is Burning would be like a 9 or an 8. This is sort of want to give this a 6, but I feel like that's disrespectful to how good the quality of the lyrics and the depth of it is. So that's why I'm having to give it a 7. It's not something that I think that you are going to come back to, but it's definitely worth a good listen. So that's my thoughts on it. It's not bad. I don't want to tell you that you shouldn't listen to it, but don't go into this album thinking that you are going to find some timeless shit. This feels more like this was Zay reintroducing himself to the mainstream, reacquainting himself. I'd like to hope that if this is just the reintroduction, I hope that he is going to have something. Maybe I'm not expecting it within the next 6 months or even a year, but hopefully within the next 2 years, he's going to drop something that's going to really reestablish himself as the force that I believe him to be. Because this album was a step down. It was not as good as his last. It was not worth the 5-year wait. And to be honest with you, the 5-year wait is what hurt it the most. So yeah, that's my thoughts on this one. Isaiah came through with something decent, but it wasn't something great. And when you have a 5-year gap between projects, you have to come with something that's going to really stand out and really make people want to come back and listen to it. There's not even really a fun song on this compared to The House is Burning, where you had Get With You by Deuce Deuce. I might be butchering the guy's name, but hold on. Actually, let me get this right. I have my phone right in front of me. There's no reason for me to not just search this up. Lay With Ya by Duke Deuce. That's the song I'm thinking of. That song is a very fun song. That's some crunk shit. You could really turn that up at a party. You can have a good time to that song. And it is a little crazy for me to really expect him to have any type of song like that on an album called It's Been Awful, when he's dealing with so much, when he's talking about so much of the personal shit that he had to go through. Like, when you have an album where you have to address yourself getting outed, it is somewhat understandable where you're not trying to, mix in some club hit on it. But it takes away from the replayability of it, and it does play a part in why I don't think this is an album that I'm gonna want to go back to and even be able to just cut on. Like, The House Is Burning, I can go on and I can just press shuffle on that and I'll have a good time just letting that album play. This one, not so much. But all in all, that's why I had to give it a 7 out of 10. If I had to give it a letter grade, I'd say this is literally like a C+, B-. But those are my thoughts. That's how I feel about it. I would definitely love to hear what y'all are thoughts are, if you've heard it yet. And if you haven't, go listen to a couple of songs and then come back. Leave a comment and tell me what your favorites are or what you are thinking about it. Just to tell you my favorites right now, what I'm going to say The Boy in Red, Scared to Look Down, and then Superficial. The album starts off sort of slow. Same shit was probably not what I would have picked as the lead single, but it does pick up in the middle and it does sort of ride from there. Like I said, it's not going to be you're not going to be reaching like Mount Everest with the highs, but it does have some very good moments. So all in all, those are my thoughts. Decent album, not great. But I would love to hear what you all have to say and what you think about it. So, like I said before, leave that comment. And with all that being said, this has been Kinetic Aesthetic. This has been your boy Germ. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. If you're on YouTube or Spotify, make sure you get that done. If you're on YouTube, though, make sure you give this video a hype. Make sure you help this boost up in the algorithm. Us small, growing creators, we have to do what we can to get ahead. But with all of that being taken care of, it's Kinetic Aesthetic. It's your boy Germ. I appreciate you all. We'll be back at you tomorrow with another episode. But until then, y'all continue to be good people. It's Kinetic Aesthetic, and I'm out.